I'm going to start with you.
Well, I've known CP for a very long time, and I knew that he was coming off his obligations at Tech Mahindra about a year before he did. And we were just having this conversation about trying to team up together. We used to have a technology business at some point in time, which we had sold in 2018. And it was just one of those things, after having sold it, we wanted to go back into the space. But obviously we were looking for the right sort of partnership, and CP and I talked for most of last year and came to the conclusion this is something we'd like to do together. And here we are.
So it's been a year in the making, Mr. Gurnani. I remember when we spoke about what you would do post-Tech Mahindra, I was very clear you were not going to walk away into the sunset. And here you are, starting afresh. How do you differentiate this venture from what you know and what is around us at this point in time in the IT sector?
So let's first address the drivers from my perspective. Drivers from my perspective was that every second guy I knew started asking me a question after your interview, that what's my bucket list? Because that's how you started that interview. And I looked at various things. I'm not saying that there was zero bucket list, but there were two definitely which came up repeatedly. Number one was that I was always a corporate entrepreneur. I did create ventures, I did scale up ventures, but it was never where I was responsible for contributing right from the day zero. So I said, no, I now need to become an entrepreneur myself. So that was my first driver. The second driver was that industry, we built a great industry. And I still believe that, in terms of IT services, there is no other country, there are no other, we now deliver global scale product and we do global scale, customer work. So I said, but more often than not, we are dependent on product and platforms which have not been made in India. Why is it that we cannot create a SaaS venture which addresses the global market? I'm not saying it has never been done, but it's more that when I started researching the subject, and thanks to my, knowing Rahul Bhatia, it was very clear that TTLH is a market which probably can benefit from new intervention.
Well, for the benefit of our viewers, I'm just decoding that abbreviation. Essentially, the focus is going to be on travel, transportation, logistics, and hospitality, spaces that InterGlobe is already in a leadership position in. So that's the starting point as far as this particular venture is concerned. Do you already have clients on board?
A few clients with whom we are doing proofs of concept. The reason is that product takes a little longer to evolve and build. But when you're trying to integrate products and improving a particular process thanks to AI, I think it is easier to do proofs of concept. So our current boardroom conversations are A, sharing the vision of the products, and number two is what and how soon can we show you what AI will be able to do for your businesses.
So how soon can we expect this to take off, pun intended?
The takeoff has happened today.
The takeoff has happened today, but in your words, a proof of concept, how long will it take for you to actually be able to deliver on the promise that you're holding out?
I think, I left Tech Mahindra on 19th of December, and since then, most of the days, we have been working together, listening to the customers, talking to the prospects, building teams. So I think over the next 1 year, you will see a lot of good announcements. This is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning, but let's address the beginning, Mr. Bhatia. You are, of course, going to be the majority shareholder in this venture. Can you break that up for us? What is the exact shareholding going to be?
We prefer not to talk about it. It's not relevant.
Okay.
I think that what is important is the journey and what we intend to build together. Over time, of course, I would expect that as leadership comes into the company, there would be a mechanism to reward them for their efforts. So it'll be an ever-changing thing. Like I said, it's not relevant.
So you are looking at bringing other partners on board?
We were talking about, I was referring to
ESOPs.
people who will come on board in the company, and they'll obviously, as the company sort of starts to fire on all four engines, that we get an equitable piece of the action.
But how is this going to work in terms of being able to service everything else that's under the InterGlobe umbrella from Indigo Airlines downwards? What is the arrangement going to be for this particular joint venture servicing some of the other brands under the InterGlobe umbrella?
So, Shereen, the joint venture with CP is not predicated on the businesses we have in terms of becoming a service provider to these businesses. If that happens, it's just something that will happen. But I think what we bring to the table to the joint venture is the fact that we are in these four distinct industries, the fact that we have a lot of domain knowledge in each of these industries, the fact that we understand where these industries are not able to talk to each other, and we feel that just because of the institutional knowledge, what we bring to the table is this common thread of where the opportunities may lie. And once we're able to identify them, and off that sometimes co-create products and services that will have applicability on a global level. And if in that applicability, companies that we are engaged with find the proposition appealing, then of course they will work on that. So as you know, whether it's the airline, we are heavily invested in travel commerce, we are invested in our relationship with Accor. We are invested with UPS, and we just think there's a thread to be woven between these businesses to come up with some unique propositions.
I'll get to the thread in your words that you hope to be able to weave together and get each of these businesses to speak with less friction to each other. But just in terms of capital, I mean, what's the kind of capital that you're putting into this business as it gets started?
Well, without going into numbers, we are well funded, and we're well funded for several years to come. And we'll see how things go.
So what are the pain points that you hope to address? Because you said that you bring to the table the experience that you've had across these sectors with the hope of being able to optimize on some of the problems that currently exist. What are the big challenges that you face within each of these industries that you hope to solve for?
I'll allow CP to respond.
Okay. What are the problems that you hope to solve for?
Shereen, the best part of these few months is listening to the customers, listening to some of the young startups, and also talking to some of the large hyperscalers. Because all of us are trying to solve some of the challenges. So let's take this example. You go to the airport, I go to the airport, we use Digi-Yatra, but it does not connect to the last gate. Somewhere there is an integration challenge. Somewhere there is a data sharing challenge. Somewhere there is a work to be done between 3 or 4 different applications that the airline or the aircraft is using. It's a beautiful product. It's just that it requires a little more interfaces and products.
All right. Well, more on that later. Very special interview there.
Establish your identity either through this identity card or through your loyalty card. Now, and more often than not, it's not an institutional personalization. It's a personalization because that property knows you.
Right.
Now, you talk to any chain, they would want systems They have property management system, they have loyalty programs,
Yeah.
which effectively means that you should be able to harmonize this. And they need help. So logistics, you talk to, whether it is the InterGlobe companies or you talk to the large cargo handling people, they all talk about one simple thing, that when it comes to systems, a small parcel is very, very well managed. But when it comes to a cargo, our tracking, because we switch between 3 or 4 airlines,
Yeah.
before that cargo makes it, the tracking is little less efficient. So we've just been gathering information. It all boils down to you as a customer, or enterprise as a customer, or the customer's customer. All three want better harmonization of data, better transparency and weaving together of the data. And I think our secret sauce is all about what you read in the press release, IntelliOS. That means an OS which will bring data and customer service together.
So where are things as far as IntelliOS is concerned? How far along are you now in being able to commercialize this?
I think we've already commercialized it. That's why the proof of concepts are happening. But it is not about integrating with one system. It is about integrating with hundreds of disparate systems. So I think it will take us about a year plus. As we go around this journey, it will become better. Just remember the evolution of the AI also. Conversational AI, all of us have seen it for the last 15, 20 years. It's only gone mainstream now. Similarly, Gen AI, it is not that it is a new subject. It has only gone mainstream now. So I think the system will continuously evolve. And the basics of IntelliOS are already functional.
So how do you intend to take on competition from, as you said, the hyperscalers as well as the industry that you're very well familiar with? Because I would imagine that, optimization, harmonization, these are things that each one of them is trying to offer this full suite of services, etc. So how do you take on the entrenched players as a startup?
Respect all of them. They are very good and they will be formidable. They will be tough. But I think our differentiator is, number one is the platform. Number two is the focus. Number three is, hopefully much better interaction with the domain experts at InterGlobe. So clearly we do know that we have some very bright people on the other side of the table.
Well, let's address that with Mr. Bhatia. In terms of the digitization and tech transformation experience within InterGlobe itself, whether it's the airline or the hospitality business, where do you believe you're on that curve? What kind of spending do you believe you will need to put in across each of these businesses to ensure that you get the outcomes that you're looking for?
While I'm not at liberty to answer on behalf of the airline, but I do know in our most recent analyst engagements, Peter has made it clear that increasingly the company is going to invest money into technology because there's just so much underlying value that you can unlock by just making your businesses more efficient. So the company started when it started in the manner it started, but as it sort of gains exponential complexity, bringing in technology to streamline some of the processes there's just so much value that we want to obviously unlock.
What gave you the confidence of making a return to the IT business? Because as you said, you exited in 2018. What gave you the confidence to want to make a return? Given the nature of competition at this point in time.
Yeah, well, two things. One, CP gives me a lot of confidence. And two, at the risk of sounding a little bit immodest, we have been there before. We've gone into industries where there were very well-entrenched players, but we believe that if you could come up with a differentiated offering, that you should see the light of day.
So, year one, of course, this is going to be the process of setting things up. What's the 5-year roadmap as far as this business is concerned? I mean, do you have a vision for where you see yourself in the next 5 years as this business is concerned?
I think,
What's the ambition?
The ambition is to redefine customer experience, and not only my customer, it is customer's customer. Number one. Number two is anticipate and use AI to create continuously better products for the TTLH sector. And number third, most importantly, is use AI, but do not forget the human touch.
That is a balance that I think everyone, especially in consumer-facing sectors, is going to be an important one to deal with as well. But in terms of hiring people, etc., how many are on board already? What do you see as plans on that front?
I think the way things are, the core product is the IntelliOS, and as I said, we'll continuously build extensions on it. So I think the product team is already in place. That's about 100 engineers working today on this center of excellence. But we do realize that as we engage more and more customers, we need a layer of consultancy to look at the current processes, to look at how to harness the power of data, to look at, not only integrating the platform, but some of the existing technologies. I mean, we are not dismissing any of the existing technologies. So I think those consultants are third part, where we will need people is that many of the processes, even to weave them together, we will have to do some of the routine jobs like call centers. Because customer experience, call centers cannot be disengaged. So I think our year one, we should be about 2,000 plus. 100, as I said, are already developing the product as we speak. Year one, we should be 2,000 plus, and then hopefully either the platform will need less people, but the more important is, I think we will have a suitable solutions for different customers, because we do believe customers like personalization, customers like to treat their own customers a little more differently. So there will be a huge effort on personalization.
Singapore headquartered or incorporated, of course you are looking at global markets, but the key focus markets that you intend to go after first?
When I looked at my sector, I mean, so one side, you need to put in a vector called economy and the economic velocity, but the other vector is also population. Because all of this is all related to the population. And the third data is your relationship with the OEMs. I mean, ultimately, where is an Airbus going to sell? Where is a Boeing going to sell? Where is a, Marriott going to expand? Where is an Hilton going to expand? When you look at all of that data...
India clearly a big focus market at this point in time for each of those companies that you just named.
Yeah. So India, Asia, Middle East, Africa, clearly the growth in the sector that we serve will be the highest there. So that will be the focus area. But since our OEMs or some of our strategic relationships or some of our early adopters of AI are based in US and Europe, I mean, I think we're building a global company, and we would be spending money upfront to create global centers of excellence.
Same question to you, Mr. Bhatia. What is the ambition? We just got a glimpse of what the roadmap looks like over the next 12 months and beyond. But what is it that you expect this business to do, for InterGlobe, for this joint venture over the next 5 years?
Well, if CP is the man I know, and in our early conversations, CP said, RB, I want to do this thing for the next 5 years. And I said, maybe we should talk about 2035. So we are in this for the long haul. And like I said, if I know the CP I know, I think we'll put a major stake in the ground over the next 10 years.
Okay. I'm going to just get both of you to step back from this particular venture and talk to me a little bit about what's happening across the sector at this point in time, what you see as far as growth is concerned, consumer spending, consumer outlook. And I'll start with you, Mr. Bhatia. You know, across aviation, hospitality, we've seen a bounce back, significant bounce back post-COVID. What's the sense that you get, both domestic as well as internationally, on growth outlook?
I mean, Shereen, you know this as well as I do. Everything that we see around us, I think the whole travel and hospitality industries are on a completely new trajectory. And, you know, some of the pundits had said, you know, maybe the post-COVID sheen will come off at a certain moment in time. We don't see that. And, I mean, we probably have a slightly differentiated view on India, given that, you know, we start on a very small base. I think we are, from that point of view, favorably positioned to just embrace everything that's going to come in this country over the next 15 or 20 years. Yeah.
So you don't expect there to be any, I mean, we're now back at perhaps even higher than COVID levels across many of these sectors, including now aviation back to 2019 levels. So you're not seeing any indications at this point in time of any sort of slowing down?
And I'm going to make the classical comparison between China and India. You look at the number of hotel assets in China versus India. You look at the number of aircraft flying in China versus India. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, you know, that we have an enormous opportunity. Probably the last bastion of what I would call enormous growth in aviation and hospitality globally. And I'm, you know, in some ways privileged that we are on the scene at this moment in time.
Yes, placing historic orders as well as far as Indigo is concerned. But let me ask you about the outlook as far as the IT sector is concerned, because there is nervousness at this point in time in terms of what's happening as far as discretionary spends are concerned. And you're entering the market in a time of volatility, particularly for the IT sector, where nobody really knows how AI is going to disrupt things for the incumbents. What do you see as the big risks as you enter?
I think I'm going to be a little more anecdotal here. I meet a CEO of a leading hotel chain. You know what our discussion is? How do we integrate UPI into our payment systems? My daughter and son-in-law are visiting from US. You know, it was not just the reaction around, you know, the UPI or the, you know, the various payment instruments. I mean, they are bowled over by things like VFast. To them, Blinkit has been invented in India. That in 10 minutes, their child needs A, or somebody needs a B, and a third person needs a C. And it is not only one service. There are 3 service providers which give you a service in 10 minutes. Now, where are these anecdotes leading to? That if technology is harnessed with the domain knowledge, if you harness it with data, then you create user experiences that will continuously define you. It is not about the old way of doing business. And I think we are lucky because we are starting with that user experience, with that domain knowledge, and bringing that fabric together. So hence, I would not like to be compared with, you know, one quarterly result of somebody.
Are you relieved that you don't have to deal with that any
I
longer?
definitely am.
No more quarter to quarter living for you.
I mean,
I
do expect that little grief to come during the board meetings from Rahul, but at least I'm dealing with that in the boardroom, not with the analysts.
No, but on a serious note, you know, you talked about the fact that you're starting afresh in many ways. Given the fact that you've done 40 years in this sector, 20 at Tech Mahindra, what do you believe you will need to unlearn, or what are you trying to unlearn as you start afresh?
I think, I mean, the best part of those 20 years is that I have no regrets, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experiences. You know, when I look at the peep into the future, I never think I had this clean a slate to write what the new paradigm would be. So when I was giving you those examples of Blinkit or anything else or a VFast, it was basically telling you that the opportunity is looking at a customer and understanding their needs and being able to rewrite the whole slate. I think that is really where I'm excited about, and I genuinely believe it's a huge opportunity.
You know, speaking of opportunities as well as what technology has been able to do at the level of, cost saving, efficiency, as well as improve customer experience, what have been the big changes that you've seen over the last 5 years, and where do you believe we are on that transformation curve or disruption curve across some of the businesses that you operate in?
Generally speaking, Shereen, I think we are at the front end of that change. I think what we will experience over the next 10 years is going to circumscribe what we have seen in the last 30. And companies like the one that CP is setting up alongside ourselves is going to be part of that evolution.
But the challenge that you spoke of, and in hospitality or aviation, which are largely people-oriented, people-driven business, what role do you see technology playing there in terms of optimizing the way that you operate your workforce, the number of people that you get onto the workforce, etc.? Do you see that changing significantly over the next few years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought I mentioned to you earlier that we have, I'm speaking for ourselves, and I think that has applicability also with other operators. Embracing technology, using artificial intelligence as a vehicle, I think there are significant opportunities in terms of creating value in our cost structure, and I just think that somebody will crack that nut, and we just want to play in that process. Travel commerce, for example, when you look at all these 2 or 3 service providers, they have products which are limited. They were built a long time ago. They need to reinvent themselves. These are legacy companies. They move slowly. Would they be open to talking to a startup which brings a lot of agility to take those products, maybe build them again from scratch to current needs? Absolutely. I mean, so for example, Indigo is today powered by something called Navitaire. It was a product that was built for low-cost carriers. Because it was built for low-cost carriers, it has, the application is basically point-to-point travel. As LCCs have grown and have grown in complexity where they work with other airlines, the product to that extent is limited because it was not built for that. Yeah. Now, can and Amadeus, for example, go and rebuild that on their own? Or are they better off partnering or co-creating that with someone like CP's organization? So there are several examples like that where I think we need to play, and yeah, I really do think that the travel experience in hotels is going to change significantly over the next 5, 7, 10 years.
But do you believe that we will see, in terms of just plain headcount addition, a significant difference in the way that you hire given the use of technology?
Well, per capita headcount would probably go down, but if you're in a growth market like India, absolute numbers would stay stable. I mean, look at what we have recently announced in partnership with Archer. It's leapfrogging, how people have understood urban mobility, where you can move from in a highly congested area from one point to the other in a spectacularly short period of time.
Do you have the appetite for more? I mean, given the expanse of the businesses that you're in, and now with this latest one and the opportunities that you see on the horizon, appetite to do more?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the appetite, Shereen, but I can tell you that the soul is restless. So we'll see how it goes.
What's what's looking exciting outside of what you already are dabbling in and what you're already well entrenched in?
Yeah, you know, we are a business that constantly looks out for what's out there. I mean, this whole thing with Archer, for example, is at the cutting edge of urban mobility. We met them a year ago. It's designed for cities that are highly congested. It is not certified yet, even in the United States of America. But our objective is to actually be able to introduce that vehicle in India as soon as it's able to fly in the United States. So we will probably be one of the first countries in the world that would introduce that product. And I'm certain that it'll take on this country like a house on fire.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of bets, you said that you wanted to give entrepreneurship a shot, and this is your way of being able to do that. He's, of course, a serial entrepreneur. What have been the conversations around entrepreneurship between the two of you?
I think it's always been about building institutions that last beyond us. It has always been about creating an impact and being able to participate in the India growth story. So I can only say is that it's every time, you know, one of us would travel, we would talk about why does it take in one airport that between the time you get out of the aircraft to the time you get into your car, it takes only 14 minutes. Why would it take some of these great airports like Heathrow Airport and an hour and a half? And what can we do to provide solutions that will will cut that, you know, wastage of time and wastage of energy of hundreds of people, thousands of people. So impact and institution, these are the two words that have been constant in our conversation.
Well, speaking of impact and institution, if we're trying to address this issue at scale, I would imagine that you know, talking to governments, etc., would also potentially be something that you would look at.
I think it's in the government has always been an integral part of any conversation, and the fact is that whether it is the growth of the hospitality sector or the growth of an aviation or growth of logistics or growth of any other, even that Archer aviation, I mean that urban mobility, you cannot do it without a government collaboration. I mean, standing on top of the hotel and then being able to fly off to airport, I mean, I'm sure it will require a government to collaborate and share the dream with you. But the good news is, Rahul Bhatia talked about 35, you talk about Olympics in 36, I'm in safe hands.
Well, gentlemen, we wish you the very best of luck, and we look forward to hearing more from you as you get to cruising altitude as far as this venture is concerned. But thanks very much for joining us on CNBC-TV18, and we look forward to hearing a lot more from you. Well, CP Gurnani and Rahul Bhatia there on their new tech venture. But for now, from all of us here on CNBC-TV18, many thanks for watching. We're back in a moment after this short break with a lot more.